excited to welcome you back to Black and Well TV. It's been quite a week. So states across the country are beginning to lift some of the stay-at-home restrictions that most of us have been under. And as we've seen in the news, reports from cities like Atlanta, Chicago, New York, people are really eager to get back to their lives, to reconnect in person, get back to normal. This is happening despite the fact that no state as yet has met the CDC guidelines for returning to work, as the COVID-19 curve hasn't quite flattened for the country. This time of uncertainty, high stress, and the departure from our normal way of life has truly highlighted the importance of interpersonal relationships, of staying connected, whether it's because you've been quarantined with a spouse or a partner and had a few trying days, or because your dating life has been turned upside down. Many of us are wondering how to cope, how to move forward. During a recent Sisters and Scotch call that I had, a friend said, "Really, I can't date until next year?" According to a New York Times article, divorce applications surged last month after two Chinese provinces lifted their quarantine restrictions. NPR recently reported that there were over 3 billion right swipes on Tinder in just one day. Perhaps this means that people are both figuring out what they don't want in their lives and looking for what they do want. Whatever it is, it's safe to say that this pandemic is impacting our relationships in a number of ways, bringing us together and perhaps driving us apart. Today, we'll be joined by an amazing panel to talk about getting together, staying together, and being alone at peace. First up is Stacy J. Johnson, author of Date Girl, 143 Reasons Why I Believe Women Should Date Multiple Men. She's a dating expert who has been featured on HLN, BET, and Sister Circle. After Stacy, we'll talk with Ken and Joy Stokes of Ken's Joy Newlywed podcast. They're going to share how the pandemic has impacted them as a couple. And then our final guest is Jennifer Lester, a licensed psychotherapist and founder of the Purpose Project. She's going to give us some insight to help ensure our relationship with ourselves is in a good place as we attempt to navigate relationships with others. As always, this is designed to be an interactive experience. We'll be taking your questions. Please use the Ask a Question function located at the bottom of the screen or the chat function to the right to send us any questions you may have. So let's get started and let's welcome Stacy J. So 2 questions right off the bat. How are you, really?
I'm good today. Thank you, Linda. And thank you for having me. This is such an amazing platform to be a part of. I appreciate that.
And I just want to know, are there really 143 reasons for dating multiple people?
Absolutely. There were 178, but because I'm intentional and 143, I don't remember if you know a song by Music Soul Child. It was called 143, I Love You. So the 1 is for I, the love is for 4, and the U is for 3. So I'm a very intentional woman with the energy that I put out in the universe. So you date 3 men to get to the 1. So it's not an intentional serial dating type situation. I'm just saying, really make sure, ladies, you position yourself with the right man who deserves you before you make the ultimate decision to be with one. And I have to add something.
Okay.
In my title as well, people usually leave that part out. It's with no intimacy. So I'm saying you're doing this with no intimacy. There is nothing intimate going on as you are weighing your options and getting to know these men.
Okay, that's good, because I was really trying to figure out how I was going to manage 140.
It's okay. It's on the front cover, but sometimes on my first book, it was in the back of the book. And on the second edition, which has a workbook component, I put it on the front so that people are clear,
Okay.
in what my methodology supports and doesn't support.
All right. So you've been a dating and relationship coach for several years now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the barriers or challenges on the dating scene that you've seen, that you've heard from Black women are common, the women that you work with?
Yes.
And what kinds of strategies do you offer women to try to overcome them?
Well, the first thing I have to say, I'm a real sister girl. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So I hope I'm okay with you about what I'm about to say, but it is what it is. Ladies, get your foot off your neck. Okay. None of us were giving the tools to do or to cultivate healthy romantic relationships. Most of us in our past, myself included, my mother was married 5 times. I don't know if your mothers were married that many times, but what I'm saying is there was some history that made you make the decisions in your life in love and how you love today. So I would always like to say, Black women, we want to be as successful at love these days, but we don't. The biggest problem I see is we put more into our businesses and really getting the tools necessary to cultivate that healthy romantic relationship. When most of us were, honestly, my mother sent me off to Spelman College. I'm a graduate of Spelman. She said, girl, make sure you get you a Morehouse man. And I'm like, okay, Ma, well, how am I supposed to do that after I get there? I'm like, well, what does that mean? So I would just say to Black women, really just get your foot off your neck. It's okay if you are becoming intentional with connecting. And that is the biggest thing. We get help in a lot of different areas in our lives, but we're not getting help in understanding, wow, why is that such a trigger of mine if he says this or if he does this? Why do I feel fearful to now I'm going to take years and years? I have some clients before me, Linda, they've taken 3 years off of dating to do this self-awareness and self-love thing. And honey, I tell them, girl, as soon as you get back out there in them streets, because I'm going to keep it real, and you start dating, what's going to happen is the same thing. The same trigger is going to come up, and it's not going to come up with you just sitting at home and, lighting candles and praying. It just ain't. You have to sit in front of somebody so that you can understand what that trigger is and then have a coach. There are plenty of coaches. I like to tend to say I'm the best in the world, but everyone should. There are plenty of coaches that you can go and get some help with so that you can understand what that is, at least as you are in the house. If you're my client, you will not be not dating for 3 years. Trust me. Right.
So it's just funny that you talked about that. I've heard, about getting the MRS degree, but, Black women are very good at starting businesses. They're very intentional. They do their research, They're disciplined, they have a plan.
They understand losing and starting again.
Can we do that in our relationships?
We should be able to, but we're not. And I just have to continue to go back to, we weren't taught to. We were raised, most of us as Black women, that's why most of us are going to college and getting these amazing degrees and these wonderful letters behind our names, but none of us were told how to really cultivate and create healthy romantic relationship. And for some reason, even in our corporate structures, I always say, thank God for Prudential. I'm a wellness expert for Prudential, have been for years at major conferences. And what Prudential realizes is that if a woman is clear after she leaves the home with whatever's going on, and she has a tool to help her better herself at home and how to deal with it, then she is better at making decisions at how she's going to invest and how she wants to do that. So I'm not, shout out to Prudential, but most corporate companies, they're not calling in individuals like myself. They call in therapists, absolutely. But I have a concentration in this area, which I would say, just like you have a brain surgeon who is a brain surgeon, you would want to go to the brain surgeon and not the general surgeon.
Right. Mm-hmm. So we're in this time of COVID-19.
Yes.
Some of us are quarantined. Some of us have had to self-isolate. As we think about returning to some sort of normalcy, a lot of us are having reservations about getting back into crowds and going to restaurants. So outside of joining some of the popular dating apps, I mentioned Tinder, are there other virtual dating communities or virtual kinds of events that have emerged that Black women can take advantage of?
Absolutely. I have to say that I have created, I'll get back to the dating apps as well, because I do want to say something about that. But I created, since quarantine, I walked around the house for about 2 weeks, like, what in the world? I'm in the business of bringing people together, and y'all want me to do what now? So I created the largest quarantine speed dating event ever. I had 700 applicants. A supporter of mine, Essence, wrote a huge article about me. And we had 80 dates in one night was a dating marathon. And what I did was I combined, because I am a matchmaker but I'm more of a coach. So what I realized, and I realized the spiritual aspect of bringing people together. So I married matchmaking with speed dating, which is basically everyone was given 10 questions. And I made sure if your love language, your top 2 love languages were one thing, I matched you with people who had complementing love languages. If you like to travel, and when you traveled, you only like to relax and do nothing, I would match you with someone. And I have to say, I'm so proud of that evening, because the event was 3 weeks ago. These people, we matched 9 successful people who are now dating in quarantine. Of course, they're not seeing each other. And Uber Eats was my partner with that aspect of making sure when they did go on their dates, if one person was in Atlanta and another person was in New York, Uber Eats gave us gift certificates where basically the gift certificates were given to the man and the woman, and then they had their virtual date on some sort of platform, whether it's Zoom or FaceTime. And we're doing that event again. So myself as a dating coach and heavily in the love industry has given my entire life to making sure I help women cultivate the tools to create healthy romantic relationships. We're going to be doing, it's called Meet Your Match, Finding Love Under Quarantine, a virtual speed dating event. So we're doing that again, and probably in June. Every week we're going to be doing it for the entire month of June. So I would say reach out to me, get in contact with me on @JustDateGirl. And if you're female or male, and yeah, let's date, let's connect.
Okay, this is like Married at First Sight coming to real life.
Well, we're not getting a marriage. That we're taking it one day at a time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Stacey, just hang on. I'm going to bring you back.
Okay.
I want to bring a couple in and sort of have a conversation about what being in a relationship during the time of COVID-19 is like. So hang on, we'll bring you right back.
Absolutely. See you in a minute.
Okay. So Ken and Joy Stokes are a married couple, newlyweds, and they have some things to offer us about what it means to be in a relationship together. And we're trying to bring them on, but so as soon as they come on, we have a couple of questions for them. But I would encourage all of you to ask your questions. I see there's a number of questions that have come up on the chat box. Ask us. And we'll try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. We probably won't get to them all, but we will get to as many as we can. So welcome, Ken and Joy. How are you?
Hey.
Hi, how are you? Thank you for the opportunity.
Doing okay. You guys hanging in all right?
Hanging in there. Man, we're doing great over here.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
I love it. I love to hear that. So I'm gonna just jump right in, since you all are all rainbows and unicorns and glitter and all that.
Absolutely.
Some say that for some couples that people are surviving, some are thriving. So are you all thriving because you're newlyweds and you haven't had a chance to get on each other's nerves yet, or is there something else going on? Talk to us about why you all are thriving and you can't leave the house.
You want to answer that?
Well, I'll start. I think that one of the reasons why we're thriving is because we actually like each other. So I married my best friend, and when you marry your best friend, then you are prepared for the good and the bad, and prepared for a time where if the lights were cut off and you had to be stuck in the house, that we could talk and enjoy each other without wanting to strangle each other.
Have you ever wanted to strangle each other?
No.
Okay. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think why it works for us, and during this time, let me say absolutely nothing has changed for us. First of all, we're both entrepreneurs, so we spend a lot of time at home and around each other anyway. Second, for me, in this marriage, and even get to this point, for me, I broke the relationship thing all the way down and made it very simple for me. I was more focused on what I needed versus what I wanted. So I knew off the top what my non-negotiables were and what I had to have to be successful in a relationship. And for me, that was friendship. So just like going into any business as an entrepreneur, the first thing we look at is the downside of the business. And if we could deal with that, if we could tolerate that, then we're already interested in the upside. So once we figured out, like, yeah, you kind of crazy here, I'm a little crazy there. You do this, you do that. Yeah, it get on my nerves, but you got the most important thing that I need. And so no matter what we go through or what we deal with, that's the most important thing to us. So I tell people all the time, I didn't marry my wife. I didn't marry joy. I married the goal that we set. So she's gonna wake up a different person every day. I'm gonna wake up a different person, but the goal is the goal. So if you're married or committed to a person, that's failure already. If you're not committed to something bigger than both of y'all, then there's your problem. So to answer your question, we've been fine over here. She's great. We're best friends, definitely. So and I tell people to be honest, like, man, if you think it's gonna be sweet all the time, absolutely not. No. We get on each other's nerves. I know probably about 30% of the day.
Yeah.
But you share a goal, so
Yes.
you know what the prize is. You know what the end game is.
Right.
That's it.
And we also keep our therapists on speed dial.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Not doing it all by
And we really deal with our relationship like a business. We deal just like business. In your business, if you see your business starting to fail, you deal with it and take action right then. You don't wait 2 or 3 days to try to figure out the problem because you'll no longer have a business. So with us, we do check-ins every other day at least.
Okay.
Hey, am I doing enough of this? Am I doing that? Hey, did I do this? Like, we really, so some people it might be nerve-wracking, but for us, it's like to keep
Necessary.
keep us on track. Because we're so creative, we both creative people and then creative fields. A lot of times what we do and what we're creating can take control and take up a lot of space. So if we don't stay connected, then we'll get away from each other pretty quick. You know what I mean?
So there's a rumor out there that there's 2 of you now, but soon to be 3 of you at least.
Yes, we got a baby girl. We got a baby girl all the way.
Coming back in the game. I'm back in the game.
We actually have all our kids behind us, kids' heads in the way of our other son, but we've got a full house. But yeah,
I feel like Michael Jordan coming back to play for the Wizards. I can't slam no more, but I got a little jump shot.
So again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Are you, given what's going on right now, are you nervous? Are you anxious about any of this? Or are you okay with all that is about to happen?
Well, I'm hoping that by the time she arrives in August, life will be back to somewhat the new normal. Let's put it that way. We've been very mindful of, quarantining and keeping ourselves, I guess, social distance away from people. Luckily, again, we're entrepreneurs, so we work a lot from home. So that does allow us the ability to not have to have any issues with our income. One, because we can create our the check that we want. But I think it's also allowed us the ability to recognize that we have to be a little bit more dependent on each other and on our businesses, and not necessarily dependent on what's going on in the world. Taking time to go back to what you used to do, like Sunday dinners, communicating, playing baseball with your son outside or basketball, not being so caught up on social media and watching television all day long, so it's brought us back to, what I grew up in, and I think what you grew up with, which was, a focus on family.
Yeah, that's important.
So let me ask you this. just so I'm clear, what did you mean by the question? What did you? Yeah, because I'm thinking it was something else, but
Oh, what did you think it was?
well, I thought you were saying like what's to come after this. That's how I took it. The new norm as far as business and moving forward.
Yeah, and the pandemic will create a new normal. We don't know quite what it is, what it will be, but there'll be something. And I would think there are probably a lot of couples expecting who are anxious about this. But also there are folks who've been couples for a long time who are also in this pandemic and wondering, what the future holds and are concerned about it. What kinds of advice would you have for them? Those who maybe have been married for a long time, the sparks perhaps have faded a bit, but they've got on top of all that the stress of COVID-19. What kinds of advice would you offer to help them just sort of get some of that energy back so they can do what you all are talking about, sort of depending on each other and not being overwhelmed by the fear of the pandemic?
Now I know this may sound crazy,
Uh-oh.
but my advice only works for a certain type of person. Now, considering I've never had a job in my life, I always said I would never live my life. I would create it every day. So I don't stress about the unknown. I don't stress about where I am now. I've never stressed about it. I don't do that. I honestly believe I create exactly what I want every day. So what I say to people may not work for everyone, but I say this was the best time ever. This was a perfect time because it made you realize if you were or if you weren't in control of your life. So this was able to show you how much control you didn't have. So if someone's able to fire you and change your life, then this time should have shown you, hey, that dream, that thing I've been wanting to do forever, that thing that's been eating me up, you should have been spending all your time on that thing right now. Now, if you're sitting at home waiting on your job to open back up, then, I don't really, you just got to wait on that. But for me, I say take this time to create the life that you want moving forward. That's what I would say. And especially if you have a super cool wife. And you guys offer different things. And now that she has time and you have time, this is the time for y'all to get together and build something together and bring those superpowers together. You know what I mean? That's what I say.
And I think too, like just nurturing what you have, because again, this is couples are, who the sparks might have died down a little bit. Now it's kind of like bringing back to life, hopefully, what you had in the beginning. Because I had a friend of mine reach out to me and he was just like, I've been working so much that now I'm able to spend more time with my family. So now it's starting to put different things into perspective. Yeah, you know what I mean? The bills are paid, but my relationship with my wife or my husband is lacking because I've been so focused on that, and so I think that if we're truly being honest, God has given us a time to pay attention to the things that we should have probably always been paying attention to, but we might have lost sight of because, most of the husbands are trying to provide, a lot of the women are trying to provide. And so it's like, okay, just the main thing is the bills need to be taken care of, or, we need to make sure that we've invested in stock and we have money in the bank and everything or whatever, which are great things to pay attention to. But again, if you don't have a family to provide for, then you've lost sight on something. So I'm really hoping too that this time allows people the ability to stay focused on the things that should matter the most.
Or hopefully you figured out you married the wrong person. And moving forward, you can get on and get to the right person.
Then there's that part.
There's that too.
It should give us the time to work on ourselves as well too. you know, me and Kim, we do work a lot from home, but we also know that we need time to focus on Ken and time for me to focus on me
And counselor.
and the counselor, and time to spend with, you know, with our children as well too, you know. So I think that this pandemic has, and I hope it really does, allow people the ability once again to pay attention to what matters the most, and not, you know, some of the extra stuff.
Right. That is really good advice. And I like the fact that you then include a counselor. You know, you guys stand by because we're going to bring you back because we want to bring a counselor on and have
Yes. Yay,
Who
Jennifer.
was the counselor?
you will find out in just a moment. We're gonna bring Jennifer Lester on, who's going to talk about the importance of counseling, of therapy, of having help in a relationship. Because as the two of you said, you can't always do it all by yourself. Jennifer, it's good to see you. I think we've got several people waiting to hear what you have to say. But let me start with, of course, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Happy Friday, everybody.
Hey, same
Hi.
thing.
Happy
Yes.
Friday.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm happy you're here. So, you know, we've heard about some partnerships, about relationships, you know, maybe approaching a relationship as a business, but basically just being as serious about your relationship as you would be about your business, about prioritizing what's important. You also have another perspective in that it's important that we understand and have a good relationship with ourselves. Would you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I was just listening to all of the guests that you had. And one of the things that I like to say that Stacey was right. She talked about a lot of triggers and doing a lot of repeating a lot of stuff. We do what we know and what we learn from those who do what they knew. And so a lot of the things that we do is patterns, learned behavior that we knew. And sometimes they've done the best they can with what they've taught us. But in these relationships, I love when you very first started talking about the divorce rate. It is absolutely correct. In times when there are natural disasters, hurricanes, whatever, we see that it either brings out the best in the relationship, or it can expose those weaknesses in those relationships. Here, there was a study done by them. I think it was American Psychological Association Journal of Psychology, and they talked about how after, I think it was Hurricane Hugo, that the divorce rate went extremely up. I expect that to be about right on track after the COVID-19. What happens is that we are normally at work. You think if we're working 8 hours a day and the travel time is hour, 2 hours, 10 hours out of a day, and that we aren't spending all of that time with our partner. So when we get a chance to spend all of our time with our partner, that definitely exposes some things that you may have overlooked, things that didn't irritate you as much. But when you're there 24 hours a day with someone, those things come up. Those things that you overlooked that I did not like about the person. And then you kind of figure out, hey, there's some things that I really like. I didn't realize how much I miss this person. So it really could go either way. For depending on the strength of the relationship. What I really liked about the couple, Ken and
Joy? Mm-hmm.
Joy and Ken. What I really liked is that she described him as her best friend, and he said that she's a super cool wife. And so they already came in with a great relationship in there. You think about people who are struggling, abuse rate are up during times when you're here alone, not only just for a relationship, but even in children. And so, so it is a difficult time to kind of see. Some of the things that we could really look at is trying to figure out, like, why are we really in these relationships? Do we really like it for that? So,
Yeah. So, you know, some people, you know, a lot of us have had perhaps uneven relationships. Some have been bad, and may be discouraged, in fact, by the experiences, by the relationships. COVID-19 again just is adding more stress, more uncertainty, probably more fear. Are you seeing this in your practice, and how are you helping women navigate these emotions and remain hopeful?
In fact, I've seen quite a bit of couples in my practice. My practice is currently closed in terms of seeing clients face to face. I do a lot of the virtual things, and I get a chance to see a lot. I've seen an increase in men actually in the practice since the COVID-19, and perhaps they're so busy, or really they may be seeing a change in what's happening with their own thing. But a lot of it is relationship driven. Most of the time, it is the relationship with oneself. And I think that's a big thing. It is when we're running, so we don't get a chance to listen to our own voice. And so when you're quiet and you have no other opportunity, no other chance, nothing else to do but to listen to that little voice in the inside, sometimes we don't like what it's saying. And so we're looking for ways to avoid it, ways to kind of cloud and busy our day up with it, to get occupied so that we don't really have to listen to our own inner voices. And some of us, for the most part, have no idea what it even sounds like, because we're in a rat race and we're running and we're doing things for everybody, for our children, for our families, for our work. And either it's on purpose, or it's really I just never had a chance to sit down and to listen to what my inner voice, what my little light is telling me.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you one more question before we bring Stacey J and Ken and Joy back. So many of us don't want to be in a relationship right now, and for women sometimes that can be a problematic. People want to ask, what's wrong? Why don't I want to be in a relationship? The assumption is something's wrong with us if we don't want to have a partner. What do you say to them? And can you give us some self-check exercises, so to speak, so that we can make sure that we are in tune with ourselves?
And I'll add to what I said about listening to your own voice is we talk to ourselves more than anybody else. And so making sure that what we say to ourselves is positive. So one of the exercises that I always give people is positive affirmations. And some people use it lightly. You may say, oh, I'm beautiful. I love myself. I want money. I got good health. But I tend to take it further deeper, being very specific and intentional and specific with the universe. The universe doesn't answer half-hearted, please. And so if I'm coming in saying that, hey, being very intentional and specific to what it is that I am a cognitive behavior therapist, and I believe that your thoughts affect your behavior. And if you change your thoughts, you change your behavior, and you ultimately can change your life. So part of the behavior, every thought, no behavior can happen without a thought. You think it first, then you act upon it. And so really being conscious and cognizant of your thoughts. What are your thoughts saying? Am I happy? Do I love myself in order to be full? So sometimes you'll hear people say that, hey, he completes me. Well, that means that I believe that I was incomplete before someone showed up into a relationship. So making sure that you are whole and using those positive affirmations. I do one, and I'm very specific, talk about from everything from the universe and being a guide, and everything from being a benevolent spirit and those type of things that you want to be able to manifest who you want to be, so that when I meet or I'm looking for a partner, that I am whole and I'm not looking for something to complete me.
Right. Because nobody can, really. You've got to be whole.
It is whole for yourself.
We're going to bring the other panelists on, but I've got a question, which is, once you're aware of your triggers, what's the first step in developing a healthy romantic relationship?
So that's a very good part. So your triggers will not go away. How you react to your triggers is what when you have arrived. And so the triggers, let's say if your trigger comes and someone they don't answer your call immediately, and you automatically start thinking like, okay, they're cheating, they're out, they don't want me anymore. Then how you respond to your trigger, perhaps they're working, or perhaps they couldn't answer at that moment in a time, and then you begin to think. So it's a thought instead of reacting impulsive. You take a moment to really think about those things through, and just reminding that, hey, these are triggers that are causing me to act this way. And those triggers, I no longer need those triggers in my life, because I found other ways to kind of deal with whatever is going on.
Okay. And that makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So we've got Ken and Joy back.
Hi, Ken and Joy. Hi, guys.
How you doing, Jennifer?
So now you know, Ken. But there's a question for the two of you that someone says that it's about sort of keeping things alive, keeping the fire going. The energy is there, and one person is suggesting that maybe couples should, if they took vows when they got married, they should print the vows and put them on the wall as a visible reminder, So for you, Ken and Joy, I want your thoughts, and Jennifer, you let us know what you think about that as
Okay.
well.
Well, Ken went off the cuff when he said his vow, so I'm not sure if he quite remembers what he said. But
I live them every day, baby.
But yeah, so I think it's just about being intentional. If you are truly friends and you truly are in love and deeper than in love, but you respect each other, then you should be living those vows out regardless of having to look at them. Now, mind you, I'm very good at, into affirmation. So yes, it is good to look at them if you need to. So, I mean, it definitely wouldn't be a problem for me. I think I wrote my vows and put them in a book so Ken could look at them just in case, just in case he needs a reminder of what I said. But again, I think that we are intentional in living our vows out every day. One, because we respect each other. Two, because we love each other. And three, because we made sure that the foundation of our marriage was friendship and not just marriage.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, just.
Oh, are you going to disagree, Ken?
Well, let me just tell you this. I believe we make this whole relationship thing way harder than it actually is. It's very simple. Like my buddy asked me, Ken, you think your marriage gonna work? Marriage works for people who want to be married. It's really that simple. Because anything else you want to do in your life, you don't even think about what comes with it. You just do it and you get it done. So you take everything that comes with it. I think for a man, to find the person for him, first he has to have a certain confidence to even find the right person. And what I mean by that is most men lean towards their strengths more than their weaknesses. In order to find a person for you, you have to be vulnerable and you have to focus more on the weakness. You don't need more of the strength. You got that. So men have to first admit what they don't have to receive what they need. So when I found Joy, I knew we were going to go through hell. I knew that. That's just life. You're going to go through that with anybody. But I knew the respect that you hold with a friend is like nothing else. And you can get through anything. So I knew we were best friends. And the cool part, we were friends before marriage. Before we started dating, we were friends. So that never changed. So once we saw she had the other stuff that I knew I needed, I was able to make up my mind within a week. The first week of us dating, I told her, hey, I can only be with you as your husband. I don't want to be your boyfriend. You know what I mean?
I understand. So
it's just like understanding yourself. You have to know yourself first.
Right. That's exactly what you've been saying.
Yeah.
You got to know yourself, have a relationship with yourself.
Yeah. So a lot of people are together still trying to figure themselves out.
Right.
How that's gonna work.
Yeah.
So Jennifer, somebody said a long time ago that you should not just tell somebody you love them. You should tell them why. What do you say to that?
I think so, because 9 times out of 10, that's not the first person you loved and probably won't be the last. And so in relationships that last, love is not all. Love is everything. I ask couples all the time, you have your marriage license. If you had to renew your license tomorrow, how many of you guys would renew them or let it go and it expire, pay your late fee, late registration, let me think about it, kind of thing. But I think you should not only just tell why, because it has to be other things. I've been married, this year will be 21 years. I know I just got married when I was 8, but for about 21 years. And when we went to premarital counseling, what the gentleman said was, start asking us, why do we want to be married? List all these things. He said, I'm so surprised that the first thing, neither of you said love was the first thing. There were so many other things other than love. We already know love is there because that's what got you to that point. But it has to be some things that will take you, keep you from there. And then you have to kind of adjust So you wrote your vows when 20 years ago. Who I was 20 years ago isn't the person that I am now. So my needs change, everything changes. So it has to be something that evolves. It has to be something that you're willing to be able to look at to grow. If you start a business plan, your business didn't start off the way it looked 10 years ago. It has to be some type of growth, some strategic plan, some SWOT analysis, some things that be able to say, where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? What threats and what opportunities do we have in these relationships in order for them to be successful?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. I think we're going to try to bring Stacey J back on if we can. And as we're doing that, so if you had to give women just two pieces of really critical relationship advice, what would that advice be?
One is to never lose yourself. So often, so because I think Stacey was just on point, we work hard. We're hard worker people, and we want to see things be successful. And so sometimes in relationship, we'll compromise who we are. We will lose ourselves. And when I say lose yourselves, that means that I will dim my light in order to make it real. So it doesn't matter what the person's title is in your life, whether it is husband, wife, boyfriend, mother, sister, or child, you don't dim your light for anybody else to shine. And so we will do that in some cases. So that would be some of my critical advice for that.
Thank you for that, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
Stacey, I've got one. There have been several questions around this theme of connecting virtually.
Okay.
And what should women avoid or be careful about when using dating apps?
Oh, wow. That's huge. First of all, I do believe we should, there's a bad rap out there about which dating apps. I wanted to come back and make sure I talk to you about that. Really, the dating app has nothing to do with it, lady. It's who are you? I've met people who have met and been married for years on Tinder. I've met people who've been married for years from Plenty of Fish, or what is that other one? Bumble is my favorite one because I have a lot of clients having some success with Bumble, but it really doesn't matter. I've talked to, over the course of the years, my next book is called Love on Wheels, love stories from all over the world told to an Uber driver on the way to their destination. I've talked to 2,500 people from 43 different countries for the reason, of course, this was all before COVID that I did this, for the reason, and over a couple of years, because I wanted to talk and see how people were loving. And I wanted to see how everyone was loving, and not just usually my brown girls and my brown brothers. And what I realized was, talking to people get married from all these apps. So really, I really tend to agree with Jennifer. Bring yourself, bring who you are, your whole self to the table, and then you can have success wherever you are. The biggest precaution, though, I can tell you, is to take baby steps. You know, you are meeting this stranger. Yes, I'm glad that you've opened yourself up to it, but you are meeting this stranger. He is a stranger. And things may he will try to move them fast quickly to get you on the phone. I would say just get you a Google Voice number or something like that, but just really take baby steps before you start to give your personal information out to individuals through an online dating app. But I do say, do it. I absolutely say there's 3 ways to meet. Well, it used to be 3 ways. Now it's 3 have been taken away, but dating online is definitely one. And as well as I always say, tell your village, you're at home by yourself. You're a single woman in this quarantine. Sometimes people think, oh, she must have someone, or he must have someone. But if you just sometimes really let your village know, hey, no, I'm not dating anyone. And I'm so excited to meet someone. And God, if you guys have anyone, please introduce me. I'm open.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, ladies, thank you very much. I want to thank
Absolutely.
all of our guests, Stacey J. Johnson, Ken and Joy Stokes, Jennifer Lester. Thank you for being with us today. This was
Thank you.
really informative for me, and I can see by questions, informative for a lot of folks. We will follow up with the questions that you all have submitted, get them answered. Thank you for your tips and strategies, for helping us stay sane and happy together or alone. Take care. So thank you all for joining us today. This was quite a conversation, quite a discussion. It was a lot of fun. We, of course, have another episode planned for next Friday at 4:00, where we'll look at strategies for managing the impact of this pandemic on our mental health. We've heard a lot about that recently, and honestly, we haven't begun to see the toll it's going to take. If you haven't done so already, take a moment to visit our website, coronavirus.bwhi.org, that we've developed to provide resources and information just for you. So I'll just end with a statement. First, I want to start with a thank you. Last week, I made an appeal for support for women who and their daughters, sisters who've been laid off from work. And so I want to thank you to everyone who donated. Last week, the BWHI team, in partnership with United Way of Greater Atlanta and the members of the Retail Wholesale Department Store Unit, passed out 500 menstrual cups as a part of this effort to provide basic necessities like paper products and cleaning supplies to people who've lost their jobs. You can still help support women through this difficult time. Just go to bwhi.org. But in a matter of a few short weeks, this pandemic has completely altered the way we relate to each other. Physical distancing, job loss, income loss, and the deaths of loved ones has taken a toll on us in ways that we really have yet to understand. COVID-19 has highlighted the many inequities in our society. Those workers, cashiers, bus drivers, med techs that went barely acknowledged are now considered essential workers. And they must come face to face with an often unmasked public, risk their own infection, and risk bringing COVID-19 home to their families. Most small businesses owned by Black women did not receive Paycheck Protection Program funding or SBA loans. But corporations with revenues in the tens and hundreds of millions of dollars did. I find this maddening and frustrating, as I'm sure many of you do. However, as many groups work to change the social and economic policies that created these inequities, let's remember how important it is to value the people in our lives and to find peace when we are with them and when we're by ourselves. Today, I'm encouraging you to find safe and creative ways to keep your relationships with spouses, partners, families, and friends in a good place. Consider doing a Zoom party with a group or a ladies' night, or maybe opt to FaceTime instead of making a phone call. Maintain those connections and let people who live by themselves know that they may be by themselves, but they're not alone. Let's find small joys, even in the midst of these very unique and challenging circumstances. Thank you. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.